Hello, I'm Amanda Rafuse, and this is Spark, the Upper Valley's new arts and culture program here on CATV. We're hoping to spark your interest in the arts by hosting one-on-one conversations that explore the depth and variety of culture here in the Upper Valley, to the amazing people who create and those who administrate, the artists who educate and the generous patrons who donate, the audiences, students, and consumers who enjoy and participate. Welcome to Spark. I am delighted and honored to welcome Marianne Barthel, who is the director of the groundbreaking Dartmouth-Hitchcock Arts Program, which exists across campuses of Dartmouth-Hitchcock Medical Center. You can learn a lot about this program at dartmouth-hitchcock.org/arts. We're going to put that in the YouTube subscription piece, so we won't have to worry about actually saying that. So a little bit about Marianne. In her capacity as the program director, she curates all of the permanent art at Dartmouth-Hitchcock Medical Center, as well as the art shown in DHMC's 8 rotating gallery spaces. The arts program also consists of talented performance volunteers, research initiatives in arts and humanities and healthcare, and a creative arts team consisting of a writer in residence, a therapeutic harpist, and a visual artist. She's presented on the local, regional, and national level about the role of arts in health, and is currently the leader of the National Organization for Arts in Health's New England Regional Network. I am so wildly impressed by everything that Marianne and your team are doing to bring the benefits of the arts into the hospital, infusing creativity into the work life of the staff of DHMC, finding ways to support patients' healing and health through poetry, music, visual arts, writing, and so much more. And I just want to end this little bio portion by quoting Marianne, who says, "At Dartmouth-Hitchcock, we believe that experiencing visual art, literary arts, and music can be therapeutic and contribute to a person's sense of well-being." Marianne, thank you so much for taking time with me today on Spark and for sharing your incredible work with our viewers. Welcome to the show.
No, thank you so much for having me. I feel like there's nothing left to talk about after that wonderful introduction.
Well, believe me, there's a lot to talk about. So I think one of the things that's really exciting about what you're doing at DHMC is it's maybe a place that people wouldn't think of to appreciate art. And so I'm just wondering if you could give us a little bit of history on what was the impetus for starting this program, and is this, is creativity as a healing modality a common practice at other hospitals? It feels very innovative to me.
Sure, I'm happy to answer that. We're really fortunate that our leadership for many years recognized the value of the arts in a healthcare setting. So even before they built this beautiful new building that they keep building more beautiful new buildings onto, they had a group of volunteers who would go with a cart, an art cart with paintings that people could choose paintings for their rooms in the old hospital on the Dartmouth campus. So it has a long history. And once they moved to the new building, they definitely wanted to incorporate something called biophilic design, which is the concept that nature and access to the outside world can impact your health and well-being as well. And so that's why we have, lots of trees around and windows, lots of windows, and art, particularly art that represents the natural world. Although there are many types of art in our collection, and there are many types of art that can have a positive impact. So it grew from there. I mean, as we started building buildings, they would have a line item for art to make sure that it was a piece of the construction budget. And we've had a tremendous amount of support from the leadership and from our community members who donate art, or our wonderful artistic community in general, too. It's a wonderful space for them to showcase their art. To answer your second question about whether it's common, it's less common in northern New England. Concord Hospital has a lovely arts program as well. Boston Children's, where my predecessor, Elizabeth Gordon, works now, also has a fantastic program. But it's definitely becoming an integral part of healthcare settings throughout the country, particularly in academic medical centers that recognize the value and have started doing research to support that.
Yeah, that's incredible. And again, you're right. It's an incredible gallery space because you've got such wide open, bright hallways, and you can have sculpture, and you can have hanging art, and you can have wall art. It's really an amazing gallery space for the myriad artists that live in our region.
Yeah. Yeah.
In your time at DHMC and with this program, what do you think is the biggest impact you've seen as the result of your work? What are you most proud of?
Well, I'm most proud of the team that I work with, of course. They're the reason I'm here to be able to talk about it. The wonderful volunteers who are going to start coming back this week to have music when you walk in the door. The creative arts team members, they have been fantastic about providing services to our patients. I always tell them that, the reason I get to do my job is because they're doing amazing work. And I'm most proud of being able to offer their services hospital-wide, because originally they had been only in the cancer center and in palliative care, where it thrived. But there's so many other patients and patient groups that are ready to receive those services and benefit from those services. That's definitely something I've been most proud of. And we were very fortunate to win the Governor's Award in Arts and Healthcare several years ago. I think it's 5 years ago now, recognizing our expansion and the work that we do in the hospital setting.
Wow.
And then, of course, I would have to say, I hope to talk about this more a little later, but the 99 Faces exhibit was really, really amazing on so many levels. So I'm very proud of making the art exhibits, both the ones in our gallery spaces and also special exhibits like that one, become vehicles for conversations that are sometimes difficult to have, but need to be had in our communities.
Yes, yes. And we will talk about that and about how you're sort of disrupting the ideas behind mental illness with some of the exhibits that you've been working on. So you have, there's such a breadth to the programming that you offer. And one of the things that I think is incredible is how you're supporting the work of the staff and the doctors, the nurses, the custodial staff, everybody who works at DHMC. You're supporting the health and the vibrancy of the patients, and then also all of the people that are visiting, all of the, the parents and the loved ones that are coming to visit or just to walk through and have a medical appointment. How do you manage sort of working with each of those different audiences? What's kind of the overarching umbrella?
Well, I think it's really important to create these spaces and opportunities for reflection in what can be a very stressful place for patients and visitors and staff. And you can have a very simple experience by walking through and just smiling and appreciating the art, or you can have a transformative experience or have comfort, receive comfort in a difficult time. And it's just an opportunity to create that mental and physical space for those expressions to be able to come out in some way, even if it's just in your own internal dialogue. And that way, it's also creating this sense of community that we're all here and experiencing this together in different ways, but still experiencing something together.
Yeah, yes, yeah. And creating that space to breathe for a moment, which I think is so important for both staff, like you said, for staff, patients, as well as visitors. So you've spoken about your work in a lot of different ways. Just a few of the things that I've read and heard you speak at different conferences, talking about fostering a culture of creativity and healing, creating an uplifting environment, creativity is an integral part of the holistic approach to care. And then, of course, destigmatizing illness of all kinds, mental illness, physical illness. What do you think is the most important thing that art and creativity bring into the lives of, I'd like to focus on patients first. How does art and creativity best help the patients in the hospital?
I think it helps them most in two ways. One is setting a calming tone. Again, referring back to the idea that when you walk into a hospital, there's generally some stress associated with that, whether it's white coat syndrome or some serious illness that you're worried about or a loved one you're worried about. And art can really create the healing and calming environment to help address whatever situation you're walking into. So I think that's the first thing that happens. And I always use the example of, you watch these TV shows like, Chicago Hope or something that I've never watched, by the way, but where, there's sirens going and there's busy streets and people running into the emergency room and all this loud clamor. And we try to create an environment when you walk in, it's peaceful. There's light and there's art. And just thinking about those two sets of images have a different sensation for people right off the bat. And then secondly, particularly through our creative arts program, but also through our entertainment volunteers and the art on the wall, again, offering this opportunity to process what people are going through. Again, whether it's reflection on a piece of art that's on the walls or hearing a song that allows you to express the emotions that you need to express at that time, which sometimes can be awkward or difficult, but so necessary and cathartic.
Yeah. And I imagine it's similar for the staff and for visitors, that sense of calm. But I have heard staff members talk about, man, just the idea of being able to walk into a room and do something different with your hands, and how giving themselves a respite from the day-to-day stresses at work is one of the things that they really value about the art program there. And I just wonder if you could talk about some of the other benefits that staff sees from the programs that you run.
Sure. So our staff and employee wellness program called Live Well, Work Well, they have several offerings that are arts related, among other things. And I think you're exactly right. It's really fantastic for staff to be able to step away and at the very least be distracted. At the best, be able to process what they're going through in a difficult day or busy day, or just just their day to day. Sometimes you need a space for that. And I think the arts create that opportunity. As well as the fact that the research shows that arts, being active in the arts, and that also can include just viewing art, but more so being an active participant in it some way, has similar effects to meditation and yoga. And so there's a physiological benefit as well from a stress reduction standpoint. And even just, I've had staff members say, my office is an internal office. We have all these lovely windows, but a lot of internal offices too that have no windows. And the ability to walk down a hall and have all these beautiful images also is another way that helps them sort of step away from the stresses of work.
Yeah. And remember, there's a world out there, a different world.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to shout from the rooftops. I think we should all shout from the rooftops the scientific research that you mentioned that talks about the benefits, the physiological benefits of participating in the arts, and how vital that is, for our kids, for ourselves, for everyone to be able to take the opportunities to participate, because it's doing us good health-wise too.
Absolutely.
Oh, man. Okay. So many questions. So that actually brings me to my next question, which is, of course, you're using art as a healing modality, but just wondering about the value of being active participants in the arts in everyday circumstances. I guess, you know, my question that I think I threw out to you at one point was like, does a poem a day keep the doctor away? What are some of those physiological benefits that you mentioned earlier? And can you just talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. I loved your question, and it actually is very similar to a course I taught with Osher at Dartmouth. I called it "Take Two Van Goghs and Call Me in the Morning."
Yes. That's brilliant.
And you know, it's great. The research that's coming out that supports being engaged with the arts, both on a physiological and psychological level, is just growing daily. So from a physiological standpoint, it can lower blood pressure. It can, again, like any other modality, there's not a guarantee. It can lower blood pressure. It can impact the hormone levels and responses to stress, the stress hormone levels in your body. They're actually in the UK and in Canada, they're doing artist prescriptions for people.
Wow.
Which is so cool. And most of it's like going to a museum or going to a concert. You know, this is obviously pre-COVID, but
we'll get there. We'll get there.
Right. We're so close. That being engaged in those activities can improve things from postpartum depression to managing Alzheimer's symptoms. And it's just fascinating. There's just a breadth of research out there and some films about it, et cetera. So it's really exciting to see that impact, especially some of the documentaries and films about it. It's just remarkable.
Yeah, and to start to have some of those metrics, those things that we've sort of inherently known and we talk about, but to actually have some metrics to sort of back that up. Yeah, that's really cool. And if DHMC could start offering a prescription for art, that would be pretty amazing.
I'll push for it.
Yeah, please do that. That would be great. So we very briefly mentioned the 99 Faces Project, and I would love to hear you talk a little bit about that, a little more about that, because I know that that's a program that you feel like really had the kind of impact that you dream of for your department.
Yeah, actually, I don't think I could have dreamt of how impactful that exhibit could be. It was just incredible. It was just incredible. Literally, as we were putting the images on the wall and putting up the other pieces of the art that were part of the exhibit, and for those of you watching that don't know what the exhibit was, the 99 Faces exhibit was part of an exhibit on destigmatizing mental illness, and it was curated and created by, oh goodness, I just spaced on her name, but Linda Cottrell is her name, a wonderful Boston-based artist. And she created all the other pieces other than the portraits of 99 people, 33 people with bipolar disorder, 33 people with schizophrenia, and 33 people who love them.
Wow.
And the combination of the setting and the background, it was a black background for every single person. So it was a consistent background, and just also the size of the images. They were all at least life-sized images of people's faces. And some of them were portraits of a single person or a family portrait or something along those lines. And so you have these faces lined up along the wall, and you can't tell who's got a mental illness or who doesn't.
Right.
And so, on one level it was, demonstrating how that could be anyone. And that's true with any illness, whether it's a cancer patient or not, or mental illness. And then people were so grateful that we were showing people with mental illness, even though you couldn't tell who had it. Everyone knew that many of the people in those images had mental illness, and destigmatizing that not everyone with mental illness is, some, crazy person on the street who acts violently. You know, there are loved ones and our community members, many of whom are able to manage their mental illness and lead productive, quote unquote, normal lives. And so we had people come up to me in tears, complete strangers, whether it was colleagues within the institution or patients and visitors, absolutely in tears. I had clinicians come up to me and were visibly moved, saying, this validates the work I've been doing my whole career. Nobody ever talks about how hard the clinicians are working. They only talk about how there's not enough out there. And it just impacted people on so many levels. And then I worked with our community relations team to provide different opportunities to have discussions with specific groups like veterans or law enforcement or families, employers. And we had such fantastic responses to that, and people's heartfelt questions, and the panelists were amazing. And so to me, it was like this perfect way to have arts as a vehicle for discussion and addressing health issues. And as we all know, regardless of the health issue, it impacts the whole community and whole families and workplaces, et cetera.
Right. And that idea of, you know, these are our friends, our neighbors, our family members, you know, that to sort of remove the ideas of what we have in our head about mental illness through the arts. I think that's really evocative. You know, rather than reading a study, you know, or trying to sort of mentally take that in, but to sort of viscerally be able to take in that understanding is really powerful. And is a program like that, or is that something that you think will continue, or is that a one-time exhibit that will, you know, that's done?
I'm really excited to share that we are bringing an exhibit in May, which is Mental Health Awareness Month, about physician and clinician burnout.
Oh.
You know, again, addressing that this is a big issue. We have amazing staff, but they are putting, you know, 150% in, and their patients come first and other things give. And so it's actually a traveling exhibit by the National Academy of Medicine. Oh. And so we grabbed it for Mental Health Awareness Month, and we're hoping to offer some programming around it for staff as well. So yes, I do hope to do that, as well as incorporate into our rotating exhibit spaces exhibits that address other issues, whether it's diversity. We have an exhibit right now by Inclusive Arts Vermont for people with disabilities who are creating art, beautiful art, and also having you know, diverse voices as artists, or imagery in the art that reflects diverse voices. So I want to make sure that that's sort of embedded in what we bring in. And it doesn't always have to be sort of this special exhibit. I like to see it as part of what we do.
Incredible. Do you think that that the 99 Faces exhibit might be something that travels to other places, or is that a possibility?
So yes, so that exhibit, we hosted it for almost 6 months, and it started at the Museum of Science in Boston. Gotcha. And then it went to a few other places, including Tufts, and it has circulated in New England somewhat. It went up to northern Vermont at one point after us, and I can't remember where it is now, but we're definitely working on getting it elsewhere in the country. I mean, it's Linda's exhibit, but we can't tout it enough about how wonderful it is and what an opportunity it is. And I was able to present at the national conference for the National Organization for Arts and Health on that exhibit in our institution, and how it really brought the community together in different ways, and how it built community partnerships. So I encouraged everyone there to see if they could have it at their institution. So my hope is that it continues going.
Yeah, and you're creating that network of other organizations and collaborators that you're moving art through. That's wonderful. Oh, Marianne, I say this all the time, but I really do. I wish that I could just sit in your office and talk to you for hours and hours. And I'm so grateful for the work that you're doing, and especially right now during COVID, for the support that you've provided the community and the uplifting energy that you're bringing to your staff members and to the hospital, to the patients in the hospital, and just to the Upper Valley region in general. I know your work with artists as well is incredibly valuable. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for giving a voice to all the arts programming in the Upper Valley. We're so lucky to have such a strong arts community.
We really are. We really are. And I look forward to, I hope we'll get to have you back on Spark.
That would be wonderful. And we'll have tea and talk longer as well.
Yes, that'd be great. Thank you again.
Thank you.
And thank you to our viewers. You have been watching Spark, the Upper Valley's new arts and culture program here on CATV. And of course, you can subscribe to CATV's YouTube channel to learn more about each guest by visiting their websites listed in the episode descriptions. And I really hope that you'll check out the Dartmouth Hitchcock Art Program. It's an incredible program and really massive impact. Thank you. Thank you for watching Spark.